How long would you have to be taking this to see any type of effects? Let's say if you had back pains.
Usually about 5 to 7 days is what we kind of recommend.
Really?
Yeah.
People don't understand the value of local products, because the moment I buy this product, the money goes to you, and then you're going to spend it in the local market. You know, the money stays.
Well,
in.
that's true. Yeah,
and that's that comes from a foreigner. You know, but it's. Okay, welcome everybody to another cracking episode of the Irish Success Podcast. Today we have a young entrepreneur. Today we have a David Hartigan, who is the CEO of Hemp Hero. So he's going to tell us everything about his business. How did he start it? What's the benefits of CBD? Because I don't know and I want to know, and I'm assuming you as well. So how are you, David?
Yeah, good. Thanks so much for having us.
Let's do it. So could you tell us, so you are the CEO of Hemp Heroes. How long have you been at it? Yeah. How did you start it? And does it make you any money?
The money part I think is still coming, but essentially I started Hemp Heroes 5 years ago. So my background, if you want to start from the very start, like I'm from Crumlin, don't come from money in any sense, like come from a single parent household, wasn't exactly exceptional in school, like I wasn't extremely smart. I got 280 points on my leaving cert, so just enough to get into a business degree in Tal IT. Then from Tal IT, I kind of started to excel, so I actually got a first class honours, went and got a scholarship to do a master's, and then that's how I kind of fell into business consultancy. And that was probably the start of my journey into kind of the business world, I suppose. And after doing my master's, I actually went to PwC. So they're one of the big four consultancy firms, worked as a business consultant, and it was during my time there, I actually kind of started to play around with a couple of business ideas. So one of the things I actually started to do was manage professional athletes. And that was actually initially how I got into CBD.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well done. So like a personal coach for...
Not so much actually in the coaching element. So like the fighters know a lot more about fighting than me. It was more on the business side. So I kind of seen a little bit of a gap in the market for managing professional athletes in terms of their marketing, branding, I suppose social media and kind of media in general. So I actually ended up managing a professional fighter in the UFC and a professional fighter in Bellator, and through managing the two guys, my kind of job was essentially get them as much media and exposure as possible and get them brand deals. So like I got the guys brand deals with say Chopped and Salad Bar, Ross Nutrition, who are a nutritionist company, Mattress Mick, which was actually a pretty interesting one. That was pretty cool.
I'd love to get Mattress Mick into this studio soon enough.
yeah, I can definitely put you in touch. Like Mick's a really interesting guy, and like the way he does his marketing, it's so guerrilla marketing. It's incredible. Like,
well done. So tell us, how did you fall into the CBD?
Yeah, so as part of getting brands on board with the fighters, one of the areas I started to identify kind of earlier on was, obviously, it was nice to have, say, like a sports drink or a protein brand sponsoring the guys. And then CBD was really coming up. So this was kind of probably 2018, 2019. And I got them sponsored by two separate CBD companies. So one of them was Irish, one of them was UK. We got the products, and to be honest, they were just dreadful. I mean, like packaging was like terrible, branding, price points, the quality product wasn't great. So being a business consultant, I was like, okay, look, how do we make this better? Essentially, what's the problem? How do we find a solution? So spent the next 9 months researching the industry. I went from having no knowledge about CBD other than its 3-letter word to essentially trying to become an expert in the space, and spoke to every kind of CBD producer I could find, started to learn the lingo, started doing research online, and then in November 2018 I decided I'd launch my own company, so I launched Hemp Heroes.
Well done. Yeah. And fair play to you for spotting it, because most of people do be sitting in their bed at home and thinking about a business idea, but that's the absolute wrong way of doing it. Yeah. The way to do it is to find something that doesn't work. Let's say you go somewhere every day and it's annoying you. You figure out how to make it better. It's a brilliant example of this, So let's maybe jump into some health benefits of CBD, okay? I'm a total rookie in this game, okay? So I'm really happy that you're here. You're going to educate me and the audience. So tell us about some health benefits of this stuff. Like, what's the big deal about it? Yeah,
so I suppose if you look at why I got into it, a lot of professional athletes use it for recovery. So in terms of kind of the use cases, why people use it, there's a lot of studies being done in terms of its like anti-inflammatory effect. So that's why you'll have professional rugby players, football players, fighters who use CBD as part of their recovery profile. And that's kind of what initially drew it to me, because I was like, okay, this is really interesting. Why are all these high-level athletes using this? Because if you're a high-level athlete, you're always looking for that extra 1% to improve and try, I suppose, become better than the other elite athlete. So CBD fell right into that space, and firsthand I'd actually seen the effects. So one of my good friends, John, actually used it on his own dog who had arthritis at the time, and the dog was in a really bad way. I mean, he was on tramadol painkillers. The vet essentially was like, look, if these don't work, there's pretty much nothing else we can give you. You're going to have to put him down. He put him on CBD and he got another 2 years out of him. And what's really interesting, I suppose, on the pet side is there's no placebo effect. Like, John didn't whisper in his dog's ear, look, you're getting CBD now, so like you're going to be better. It either works or it doesn't work. And from that and other experiences, my uncle, he done a lot of powerlifting back in the day, so his joints are in bits. He was using CBD as well, found it great for even just his mobility, his pain, and that's what kind of drew it to me. In terms of kind of some of the other research that we're doing now, like inflammation recovery would be a big reason why people use our products. Like, we only got a review in the other day of one of our customers, and her dad is 90 years old. He plays golf and actually used our CBD balm for his arthritis in his hands. And she actually joked, she was like, oh, my dad gets a good laugh out, tell all his golf buddies he uses cannabis. So definitely the inflammation side. Another big reason actually would be sleep. So if you look at our Google reviews, over half our reviews actually mention sleep. So we have so many people who use it for sleep, and there's a lot of studies being done around sleep, and we're actually trying to start our own study in the kind of space of sleep and CBD and how they, I suppose, how it amplifies deep sleep. So like I wear a Whoop, and Whoop are actually one of the only brands in the wearable space that ask you in your sleep diary how much CBD you have before bed. So they've looked at it as a metric and went, okay, it's interesting enough to include it in our sleep diary. And like, Whoop are $1 billion company, so they must see some value in it if they're asking people to try collect that data.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And could you tell us what's the difference between going to bed and smoking a doobie or getting a couple of drops of this CBD stuff? Tell me the difference, okay? Because there's a lot of people who watch this that they probably prefer the other way, right? No, it's our job to convince them to use this, let's say.
Yeah, of course. So like, if you think about a very basic level, so cannabis is actually a term for a family of plants, and unfortunately when people just think cannabis, they just think you get high. So technically anyone who takes a CBD product is actually taking a cannabis product. So cannabis is a family, and then it basically branches into kind of two main sides. So you have hemp on one side, and then you've actual marijuana on the other. So the difference is they're like genetically polar opposites. So hemp on this side has very low levels of THC, which obviously is what gets you high. So you're talking the THC levels in hemp is 0.2, 0.3%. It's minuscule. It's a very, very small amount, where like we could literally have this whole room full of hemp. You could smoke it, just not going to get you high. Obviously marijuana on the other side has much higher levels of THC. You're talking like 20, 30% plus. So the difference is 100 to 150 times the difference.
Wow.
Yeah. So think of, I suppose, CBD products made from hemp as non-alcoholic beer. That's kind of the easiest way to think of it. So you don't have that intoxicating effect, yet you get kind of some of the benefits, I suppose, in terms of like the rest, recovery, kind of inflammation.
Well done. So it is good for business people and athletes, as you say, because, I couldn't afford to be smoking every day, because you'd be dead the next day, Yeah. But this seems to be doing the job.
Yeah, and like, to be fair, our customer base would be quite varied. Like, we have stay-at-home dads, moms, doctors, solicitors, nurses, like every walk of life we have people using our products. So our products are very much in the health and wellness space. They're not to get intoxicated with whatsoever. And the funny thing is, we're actually starting to do some work in Malta, and Malta has a big medical cannabis program now. So over in Malta, I think you can actually grow 1 or 2 plants per person.
Let's move to Malta.
But what the doctors over there are doing is, people who have, say, severe pain or cancer, they'll prescribe them THC products for their pain or for their sleep, and they're actually pairing them with CBD products because people still want to be able to function. Like some people who have cancer or God knows what in terms of health problems, they might still have to work. So being stoned and lying on the couch and want to eat your body weight in food isn't going to suit you.
No.
If you can function and still have that pain relief, it works really well. So not only does CBD not get you high, it looks like it actually is an anti-high, and it will take you down off the THC slightly.
Yeah. Have you ever looked into the reason of why this stuff is actually banned? If it has so many health benefits, why is the marijuana banned? Actually, there's a conspiracy theory. I might run it just very quickly. Apparently, years ago, the elites, when they started developing plastic and polystyrene,
I've heard this.
Yeah, they ban all of the hemp products because you could make everything out of hemp and it would be biodegradable. The earth would be a beautiful place, but it's much cheaper and much more profitable to make plastic and let's say, the white stuff, the foam, what do you call that? Polystyrene.
Polystyrene, yeah.
Yeah, and that stuff doesn't biodegrade at all. It'll always be there,
Yeah, and to be honest,
conspiracy theory that I believe in.
yeah, well, to be honest, I have heard that story. So, hemp has been growing for like thousands and thousands of years. The funny thing is, I suppose CBD now has kind of came to the forefront, and it's very much in the mainstream. But like, this isn't something that we just came across in the last 20 or even 50 years. Like, hemp goes as far back as Egyptian times, and like it's been used through history. And like I've talked about this before, hemp was actually used extensively during World War II. So for anyone listening, a really cool thing which no one has thought about in history, if you look up it was called a campaign Hemp for Victory. So during World War II, the US government actually encouraged hemp farmers to grow hemp to help with the war effort.
Oh.
So they gave them subsidies, they gave them special licenses to grow hemp, and that hemp then was mainly used in fibre for, you're talking like military parachutes, clothing, all sorts of fabrics, ropes, everything. And that was actually encouraged during World War II to help with the war effort.
Yeah.
And then after World War II, essentially hemp was actually banned again and became a Schedule 1 drug. So hemp, which is completely non-intoxicating, wouldn't get anyone high. You could try smoke an acre of hemp, you'll probably just die from smoke inhalation quicker than you get high. Had became in the same category as heroin and cocaine.
It's ridiculous.
Which
How
is
the
just
hell did they get away with it? You know?
Yeah. And you're right in saying it can be used for so many things. So like hemp can be used for
I
building
looked
materials,
into that.
plastic.
And you know, when I looked into it, I usually go on a spin with my girlfriend on the weekend, right? And then we were driving somewhere in Wicklow, between Wicklow and Dublin. And I was driving by, and something, in the corner of my eye, I saw something. And I was like, that looks familiar. And I saw a big plant of marijuana. Well, it was obviously the hemp stuff.
Oh, okay.
It was on the field, open, beside the road. I couldn't believe it. Obviously, I pulled up, I looked at it, took a few pictures.
Yeah.
I went off, and then I started thinking about it, you know. And there's obviously people who are making money in this business here in Ireland.
Yeah, so unfortunately the only thing in the hemp space in Ireland is it's massively underfunded. So like everything we do, we get no government funding whatsoever. So like we're manufacturing products in Ireland, we're exporting them, we're doing everything that Enterprise Ireland essentially look for in terms of like job creation, manufacturing, exports. They're usually the kind of 3 boxes you need to tick. But hemp, because it has this connotation towards cannabis, they see it as kind of nearly like an illicit or a kind of, I suppose, a reputational damage issue to kind of deal with these types of companies. So we get no government support whatsoever, and the hemp industry is massively underfunded. So like hemp farmers should be getting a lot more subsidies. Government should be working with them, because even in terms of like the environmental perspective, hemp takes out more CO2 out of the atmosphere than trees. Yeah. So like if we were really interested in trying to kind of green the earth again, we should be growing hemp. We should encourage farmers to grow it.
That would absolutely fix all of the problems. That would fix all of the problems. Zero plastic, non-biodegradable, cleans the air, cheap as hell, gives jobs. Like what?
Yeah,
what
and extra revenue
doing?
to farmers. It literally ticks all the boxes. And I was at an event before, and it was the Minister of Housing that was there, and they were talking about retrofitting houses and doing all this thing that needs to be done. And I actually propositioned that question. I said, how come the government hasn't extensively looked at hemp? Because I said, the farmers are crying out for more revenue, and you're trying to cut their cattle herds to obviously reduce emissions. So hemp solves both of them problems because it lowered their CO2 emissions, give them extra revenue. It's better for the environment. Like we're paying millions a year in fines
in this world.
Yeah, like we pay millions a year in fines in Ireland for not meeting our carbon emissions. So like this is a simple solution. It doesn't cost like billions in terms of like heavy tech. It's a very simple, quick and effective thing.
It costs nothing, plus it actually makes money.
Exactly.
Crazy. I think we should run for president. Let's legalize the stuff. Let's talk about the business side of it, right? So when you had this idea, obviously you've done your research, you've learned everything that is there to learn in about 9 months, and then you started, right? So how much did you need to start this? Because let's say you're starting a coffee shop, you need a few grand for renovation for this. This is a completely different ballgame because you need a product range, you need labels, you need this, you need that, you need to design it, then you need to sell it, you need to market it. Luckily, you are good at that side of the business, you know?
Yeah.
So tell us, how much did it cost you at the start? Or did you have to find the money, or was it hard?
Yeah, so it was quite difficult, and it was the first kind of proper company that I'd actually kind of decide, okay, look, I'm going to really put it all in here. So I started the company with around €10,000, give or take. Initially, we knew obviously we couldn't do everything ourselves. Like if we were to try grow hemp, then learn how to manufacture it, and then make it into finished goods, that 10,000 would have been a couple of $100,000. So like that wasn't an option. So initially, I learned quite early on that most CBD products on the market are white label. So white label or private label, it's a similar term. It just means someone else manufactured it for you. They put your label on it. You get it. You sell it to your customer. Your customer doesn't know where it comes from. They just think it comes from you. So when we originally started off, we went and kind of done a lap of all the white label CBD companies. So we spoke to companies all across Europe. At one point, I was even going to fly to somewhere in Eastern Europe to meet with hemp producers and people who could give us white label products. And we actually ended up settling on a company in the UK. So we chat with a company in the UK, said, look, we want to launch this brand. What's your minimum orders? How does it work? They gave us their price list. We decided on what products, and we kind of we decided we wanted to do something in the pets range because we'd seen such great results. So they actually helped us in formulating a specific product for pets, which they actually didn't do at the time.
Well done.
Yeah. So we initially launched, I think, with 4 white label products. There was 1 pet product and 3 human products.
And sorry for disturbing you, but do you have your hemp product in the pet shops already?
Yeah, so we're in 80% of pet stores in Ireland.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah, I'll touch on it in a minute because the pet space is quite interesting and it's somewhere where we're doing a lot of research. But back to your kind of initial question, roughly about 10 grand to start the company. We went on the white label option because it was the only option that was feasible. Like, unless we were to raise a lot of money, it wouldn't have been feasible. And we'd nothing to back us to raise money either. No one's going to give you a couple $100,000 on the idea of, oh, we have this idea for a brand. So it just wasn't going to happen. It's not like I'd done 4 startups before, raised a lot of money. So we spent a good bit of money on our branding. I'd say a couple of grand on there, and getting a website designed, getting our labels designed, and then we launched. So when we originally launched, I kind of wasn't sure what it was going to be like, and then it was kind of strange because I remember getting the email through and it was like, oh, you've got a sale. I'm like, this is mental. I'm out like going on a run, and I've just made €50. So I'm like, this is just it. The whole e-commerce side was just so new to me. I was like, this is just bizarre. The fact that I can be out doing something, yet making money, but not having to give my time to make that money. Because like I've always worked in a space where you're trading time for money. Yeah. Like I worked in the event space with security. As I mentioned to you, I worked as a private investigator. 2 of my uncles are private investigators through college, and worked in nightclubs, and then obviously worked as a business consultant. So you're always trading your 9 to 5 hours for a paycheck. So the idea that I could be doing something else and getting money was just kind of a little bit mind-blowing at the time.
I'd say the first few grand when you got into the bank account was like a snowball effect, because it fuels you to do more marketing when you see the numbers go up. Yeah,
definitely. So over time, it kind of started to grow and grow, and then the plan was then to extend out the product line. So we started with 4 white label products, and I always knew if I wanted to have a real impact in the industry, we needed to move away from the white label side into our own manufacturing, because if you're just another white label product, you've nothing to differentiate yourself from everyone else, because the company we were using, there was probably 50 other people using that company. So if all of our products are on the table, what makes them any different other than just our brand and label? Like nothing. And you're also at the mercy of that company. If that company turns around and says, okay, that product we charge you €20 is now €30 tomorrow, unless you find a new supplier, you got to pay it. Like, so you're very much at the mercy of changes, and you're on the back end of the supply chain, because usually the way it works is raw hemp is grown by a farmer. It's then sent, it's processed, it's usually refined, then it might be packaged into a good, and then it's sold on to a third party as a white label product. So we're the 6th person in the chain. Okay. So I wanted to be at the very start and try cut out as much fat as possible. So over the last 4 years, we've reinvested everything back into the company, into our own manufacturing. So I actually started the company in 2018 and still kept my full-time day job until September of last year. So I worked a full-time job while building a company, which is probably the hardest way you can do it.
This is the only way to do it successfully. The worst thing is to quit your job. So well done. That's actually pretty impressive. That's the way everybody I know started, keeping your full-time job, working on the weekends and the afternoons. But you know what I do be telling people? I do be telling people that you need to be an excellent worker while you work for somebody. Because could you imagine yourself doing all that while you're being a lazy for somebody else? That work ethic has to be within you, doesn't it?
No, definitely. And the funny thing is, like, I was working in Big Four consultancy, which isn't an easy job in the slightest. They're long hours. They expect a lot from you. You to get paid well for it. So like with PwC, I got promoted year on year consecutively, and I left at manager level. So I was on 80 grand a year when I left. So I was getting paid pretty well. Like I think 80 grand a year in Ireland, you're in the top probably 10% of earners. So like I was getting paid extremely well, but I was working my ass off Monday to Friday, and then even after hours.
How many hours a week would you be doing there?
Probably like 9 to 6, 7, and then usually from 7 to 10 at least, I'd kind of be getting everything else in place in terms of like making sure orders are going out, making sure emails are getting sent, working on new product development, working on new packaging, branding, trying to get new kind of, I suppose, partnerships with retailers. And then on weekends, I could be doing events where like I could be doing a farmer's market, I could be doing a wellness event. So like some weeks could be you're working 7 days essentially, and it'll roll into another 7 days.
Your story is the typical success story of somebody who started something while they had their own job, isn't it? Like it's the perfect. If you read books, I read a lot of stuff about people, biographies of people who started from nothing. This is exactly how to do it.
No, it's not easy, and I know a lot of other people who will go the different route where what they'll do is they'll save enough money up and then obviously leave their day job, run their company full time, and then hopefully the company picks up enough that it can sustain them. What I didn't want to do is leave a well-paid job and then a bump in the road happens and everything starts to fall to shit and then I have to go get another job. I kind of wanted to make a decision when I leave. That's the last time I'm working for someone. Like, this is me full-time. I'm my own boss. I make my own hours. And the funny thing is, even though I'm working for myself, I probably work longer hours than I did when I was working as a business consultant. But like, that's the price you pay when you're your own boss. You don't really switch off. But like, if it's something that you love doing, you don't mind doing it.
It doesn't count as a job.
No.
A lot of people don't get that. I wanted to ask you more about this stuff, right? More than the business. You know, is there a lot of people out there who use this stuff daily? I mean, you know, how do you do it? Did you take it before breakfast or before going to sleep? Yeah,
so a lot of our customers would use our products daily. Like that bottle there should last you roughly about a month. So like it kind of depends on what the reason is you're using it for. Like a big portion, as I mentioned, our customers would use it for sleep. So if you find it difficult getting into a deep sleep, or you just don't switch off and you get to bed and your mind just races, it does help.
Do you know who this would be good for? No, not insulting anybody, but you know, people who are addicted to pot, you know, because they can't sleep if they don't smoke.
Well, that's the thing, and like, we're working with a guy at the moment called Tom Coleman. So he's a sleep expert. So he's worked with like the Irish rugby team, a lot of sports stars. He does a lot of corporate talks for banks in terms of like sleep hygiene and different things you can put in place for sleep. And like the thing with our products is, if you're drinking 10 cups of coffee before bed, you're playing Xbox, and then you're expecting to have a good night's sleep and just take a couple of drops of this, like, it's not going to work. You need to do certain things as well. Like it's a supplement that will help. Once you have the good sleep hygiene in place and you take this, it does help you get into a deeper sleep. And like one of the other guys we work with, a guy called Brian Keane, Brian's an ultra marathon runner, a podcaster, and he has terrible sleep in terms of like he just can't get into a deep sleep. So he's been using our products for the last 4 years, and before using our products, Brian actually had a white noise machine to try to get him to sleep.
What's that?
It essentially makes kind of like white noise, nearly like babies with kind of hoovers or a hairdryer. It kind of creates a little bit of noise in the background that kind of helps you get into a deeper sleep.
Oh, okay.
So he was a terrible sleeper, and he was very much on the opinion of like, not pessimistic, but he was like, look, I'll try the product. I'm not promising anything, and I'll see how it goes. And then after a week of trying our products, he's like, man, this stuff is like fucking phenomenal. He's like,
how long did it take him to see the benefits?
About a week, because the funny thing is, some people it takes to write like very quickly. So like, for example, like some people take it and have the best sleep ever first night. Other people, it takes about 5 to 7 days to build in their system. Same with pets. Like, we have dogs who are highly anxious. You give them first day, they can see a slight difference. After a week, they see a massive difference. Yeah,
that's incredible.
So like, day or night, you can take it. Like, you can take this before driving your car. There's no issues. So like, if you're a bad driver, we always say don't blame us. It definitely wasn't our products. I take it before I do public speaking usually.
Oh, really?
It actually really helps with nerves, yeah. So anytime I do any radio or public speaking in front of the crowds, I actually didn't know. I was kind of getting used to it now at this point.
So you mentioned that you started it as a white label, getting somebody else's product with the label. What stage are you at now? Where is your process in? Yeah,
so we went from white label 4 products to in-house manufacturing 25 products. So we went full circle. So we probably reinvested over 200 grand back into the business.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was the reason why I stayed in PwC so long, because everything the business made just got churned back into, like, for example, trademarks. We've trademarks for pretty much all over the world, like Ireland, UK, all of Europe, US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. So Hemp Heroes is trademarked.
And you sell this all over the world?
Not currently. So we are looking at trying to get into new markets, mainly be Ireland, UK, and some kind of mainland Europe. We are working on some stuff in the US at the moment.
So now what would help you? going viral on TikTok with this stuff,
Well, that's what we're trying, yeah.
Yeah, definitely would help. Like if you get 500,000 views, don't know talking about, you just have to get somebody. You have to understand the audience as well. If you want to get to the younger audience or what, I would have a couple of different people maybe doing it, but definitely would boost the sales,
Yeah, definitely.
So could you tell me about other products? Because we have the oil, you have some seeds, could you tell me more about, because you said you have a line of 25 products. What are they? And did you come up with some of them, or were they already existing?
So we developed all of our own products. So now as it kind of currently stands, we don't have any white label products. So what we do is we work with hemp farmers in Ireland and across Europe. We take in raw hemp and then we process it into finished goods.
You do it all by yourself?
Yeah. So all of these products are manufactured by us. So we have a unit in Wicklow. It's HSE approved, and that's where we manufacture all of our products.
Maybe that's where I saw the farm.
I was only telling you earlier. So with us, we actually got a question on TikTok this week. Do we grow our own hemp? And I was only sharing a story with someone there that back in 2019, we actually did decide, look, let's try grow hemp. So I don't even have as much as a house plant, but I was like, okay, look, we'll give it a go. Hemp grows really well in Ireland in the kind of summer months. So we rented 2 acres of land. Have you ever heard of the festival Barn Dance? So there's a festival down in Glendalough. I think they actually had another festival just only a couple of weeks ago there, but I know the owner of the whole estate. So they've about 2,000 acres there, so it's perfect. So we rented 2 acres. We decided, look, we're going to grow hemp. We contracted a farmer in. He ploughed the field, sowed the field, slurried it. We're going to do it all organic. I went on holidays at the time, and what I was told by all the other hemp farmers was like, look, you basically just got to put it in the ground. Once there's a bit of water and a bit of rain there, it'll grow, and you kind of just shut the gate, and in a couple of weeks' time, you'll have a harvest. So I went away, I think, for a couple of weeks, came back expecting kind of knee-high, I suppose, waist-high hemp, and came in and I was like, oh, there's loads of deer in the field. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I looked around and the deer had demolished everything. They'd eaten all the fucking plants.
No way.
So
How much were you down on that particular?
A good couple of grand. Like we put at least probably maybe 5 or 10 grand in at that point, between like hiring in the farmer to plough the field, sow it, slurry it and everything, and then the rent of the land. So yeah, definitely a learning experience. But from that point then we decided, okay, look, this is just madness trying to do absolutely everything. Like Nike don't make their own fabrics. Do you get me?
No.
Yeah.
No,
so
no.
we're like, look, we can't do absolutely everything. It's probably best we stay in our lane. We're not farmers. We're very much on the branding and the sales side and the kind of research side. So that's why we work now with hemp farmers rather than try be hemp farmers.
Well done.
Yeah.
And is there a lot of hemp farmers out there? Is there?
There's probably about, I'd say, 80 hemp farmers in Ireland. Yeah.
The numbers are still good. Could you mention some of the 25 products that you have developed?
Yeah, so we obviously brought everything in-house in our manufacturing, which gives us much more control over the kind of quality of the products. So we've kind of 4 main categories. So we've our human food supplements, which would be like these here. And we've our pets range. We have kind of our superfoods, which would be the hemp seeds, and we have a hemp protein. And then we have a couple of cosmetics, which are kind of like muscle balms, and we're working on kind of, I suppose, some other products like massage oils and beauty creams, kind of more for, I suppose, the female kind of demographic rather than the male. So the pets range is quite interesting, and that's 10 products in our range, so it's quite big. We're in about 80% of pet stores in Ireland, so we'd be Ireland's #1 selling hemp brand for pets. And the way we've done things is quite unique, so we've developed all them products in-house. We're also the only company in Ireland working on clinical research. So one of the things that I wanted to do when I started the company is we wanted to have a strong foundation and like be able to back up, I suppose, the quality of our products. So when I started the company, we actually started a giving back program. So we work with 11 major rescues now across Ireland, and they essentially get our products for free every month.
Well done.
Yeah, so like we wanted to obviously make money, because unless you're a charity, obviously you have to make money in a business, otherwise you're not a business. But we also wanted to have a positive impact and not just make money. So the giving back program is one of the things that we've done there. And like originally when we started, we just started working with the DSPCA. We gave them a couple of products. They found them fantastic, and we're like, okay, brilliant. Like we don't have a lot of money, so at least we can give them something of value, which is our products, for free. And then over time, we've kind of started to scale that now. So like we work with like DSPCA, Guide Dogs for the Blind, Husky Rescue, Dogs Angels, Dogs in Distress, and pretty much all the major rescues in the country we work with in some capacity, and they get our products and can use them in the shelter.
Well done.
And what they're finding is it's fantastic for anxiety. So when they bring in rescues who are highly strung, they're obviously in a new environment, they don't know what's going on, they find it helps them decompress a lot quicker. So on the anxiety side, they find massive results on it. And obviously their whole goal is to get a dog rescued and into a loving home. So no one wants to come in and see dogs who are strung out. So like it doesn't affect their personality. It's not like you're coming in and the dog is half dead. So it just helps them relax. And like we even have customers around Halloween time in particular who actually use it for fireworks, and it's brilliant for just calming the dogs down.
Well done.
Yeah,
I'd say that's gonna explode in the dogs industry.
well, one of the things that
And what about horses?
it actually works for horses well. We've one equine product.
No way.
Yeah, and there's a zoo in Poland who are giving CBD to elephants.
No way.
Yeah, as part of their breeding program to actually help them kind of be a bit more relaxed.
No way. So this
It's quite interesting.
So this basically goes across all animals.
Yeah, so it's all mammals that CBD kind of works with. And on the pet side as well, we're working on the only clinical study for osteoarthritis in dogs. So we're working with UCD at the moment, the veterinary hospital, on a study on, I think it's 12 dogs we have in the process now. So it's a double-blind placebo. So what that means is half of the dogs will get a CBD product, half of the dogs get a placebo, which is actually hemp seed oil. And then that runs for, I think, 6 weeks. So the vets will regularly check them. They have to get scans and everything to make sure. And there's qualification kind of criteria in terms of like they have to have arthritis, hip dysplasia, ligament damage and stuff. Then there's an assessment from the owner in terms of how they find the product. And both the vets and the owner don't know what product they're getting. So they just get a blank product with no label on it. They get to use the product for 6 weeks. Then there's a 6-week washout where they get no product, and then it flips and they get the opposite product. And so far the results we're getting back is absolutely phenomenal. Like we've had feedback to say that it's literally like a miracle drug of one person.
Way.
So like we have dogs who are highly arthritic, who can't get on the couch, can't walk up the stairs, are now jumping up the stairs. So once we have that paper published, which will hopefully in December, it'll massively change the perception of people, because a lot of people still think CBD is very much woo-wee, or it doesn't work. So we'll have clinical evidence to prove that.
That's why I really wanted to have you on this, because I have heard about it, but I didn't know any details about it. Like, you know, the stuff you're talking about, the dogs, it seems pretty amazing, you know?
Yeah,
so
it's interesting, like.
So, do you have any case studies about people? I mean, like some...
Yeah, so on the people side, similar enough, we've had people with like slip discs, back issues.
So how long would you have to be taking this to see any type of effects? Let's say if you had back pains.
Usually about 5 to 7 days is what we kind of recommend.
Really?
Yeah, so like we kind of say like within 5 to 7 days it really does start to kind of build up in your system. Like I use the BAM a lot. I do some jiu-jitsu and I'm constantly just getting like sore like joints or little injuries, and I find it brilliant. And like we do have a lot of people who use it for kind of sports injuries and stuff like that. And then even on the anxiety side, like it works brilliant. We've so many people who use it for anxiety.
So how many drops am I taking every day? Because I'll use it. I'll start it.
Usually what I say to people is start low and work up. So like personally I use around kind of a quarter or half a dropper. That's what I find works best for me. And like the dosage...
Half of a drop?
No, half for a dropper.
Oh, the drop.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's and the thing as well is that I forgot to mention, so there's actually different grades to CBD. So if you see what ours is basically like a really black color. You see how dark it is? So I always tell people the rule of thumb with CBD is the darker the oil, the better the quality. So you can see it's literally like engine oil. It's black, like. So if you think on a really basic level, hemp is a very dark green plant. So naturally anything from it should be dark and green. So if your CBD doesn't look dark, it means it's been processed. And like anything, the more processed it is, the less effective it is. So like usually what people will get is this type of product. You see, it's yellow.
Yes, you can see it's not as...
it's not nearly as dark.
No.
So like if you're getting a CBD product and it's this kind of yellow color, what that means is it's just been processed, and it means it's less effective, because the more processed it is, the less kind of minerals, terpenes, vitamins, cannabinoids are in there.
It's basically as if it was diluted.
Yeah, it looks diluted. And then the worst case is if your thing looks like water. So if your CBD looks like this color, it's see-through, it's nearly transparent. It's the lowest grade. So like that product you have in your hand, our ones, they're called full spectrum. So full spectrum is the whole plant. So what we do is we take the whole of the hemp plant, we cold press it, for a better word, nearly juice it. And that's why our oils are so dark, because you're getting everything from the hemp plant. So like our products will have CBD in them, but they'll also have other cannabinoids. And together, it's like they make a synergistic effect. So it's called the Entourage effect. So the best analogy I always give people is like similar. If you had one little stick, you can snap it. If you have a bundle of sticks, it's stronger. So collectively, all of the vitamins, minerals, everything in there together have a much better impact than individual ones. And like the more yellowy color has less of them minerals in there, so it's going to be less effective. And then the see-through one has only CBD in there, so they've removed all of the other goodness. So like CBD isolate's probably about 20 to 30% as effective as a full spectrum product.
Wow.
So usually if people try CBD products and they go, oh, I tried CBD, didn't work, didn't see anything off it, chances are you just bought a really shitty product, or you haven't took enough of the product to actually see the effect. Because if you get a good quality product, you will see the benefits from it. It does make a difference. And like, again, when you go back to pets, like there's no placebo effect there. So either it works or it doesn't. And like the rescues that we work with, they get our products completely for free. So it wouldn't make any sense for them to get our products if they weren't having any impact.
No.
Like otherwise they just wouldn't ask us for them.
So just going back to the way you process this stuff,
Yeah.
you say that once you extract your CBD, what's happening with the rest of that stuff? Can that be used in some way?
Yeah, so we're actually looking at possibly pet treats.
What's
Because
that? Pet treats?
Yeah, pet treats. Yeah, so once we extract it, it kind of I suppose excretes nearly like a cakey material.
Could you make clothing out of it?
Not so much, no. So the clothing actually comes from the fiber part of the plant. That's more the stalk. That's kind of where you get your fiber, where you can make like paper, building materials, clothing, fabrics. So the kind of parts that we're using aren't so much on the fiber end; it's more on the kind of the other end
Of basically
of the hemp plant. Yeah,
food. Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Okay, because it would be pretty handy if you made the CBD and then you could use the stuff for to sell it, basically, you know. So do you have any tips? Let's say I go to your website and I want to get into this stuff, and because it has so many health benefits, you know. So what would you recommend? Would you recommend the 15%? Is there any other ones as well, or?
Yeah, so if you want to even take a step back, so like even if you don't want to buy our products, if you say are interested in CBD products or looking at possibly trying a product with CBD in it, there's kind of a couple of things you can look for, and it just means it'll save you the heartache of spending money and just getting a shitty product. So what I always say to people is there's probably 3 or 4 main things you can do. So first thing I'd usually do is check reviews. So like if you're looking at buying a product, go onto their website, check what reviews they have, make sure they're legit reviews, obviously, and see what other people's experience with the product is. So like if there's other people who've had good experiences, it's obviously a good start. The second thing I'd probably look at is what type of CBD it is. So like it should clearly kind of tell you if it's a full spectrum or broad spectrum or a CBD isolate. Ideally you want to go for a full spectrum because it's just the best quality you can get. There's no point of spending €30 on an isolate product and the full spectrum costs maybe say 40. Like the 10-15 euro you'll save in the difference, it'll make them like you'll actually lose out because the effectiveness of CBD isolate products is much less compared to full spectrum. So sometimes going cheaper isn't the best option. So
it's almost always.
Yeah, usually there's a cash if it's cheaper. Yeah. So check reviews, try go for full spectrum if that's possible. Broad spectrum at the very least. I'd kind of avoid CBD isolates because they're not nearly as effective.
Well, before I even finish, I wouldn't say look for other products because you have a locally produced product here. I will always tell people, even if you didn't come here and I found your product and it's locally produced, I would blast it all over my Facebook or all over my Instagram because it's local. People don't understand the value of local products because the moment I buy this product, the money goes to you and then you're going to spend it in the local market. You know, the money stays in.
That's true, yeah.
And that's that comes from a foreigner, you know. But it's always good. Even when I go shopping, I buy local stuff, you know. So local is always better.
Yeah,
you know?
well, that also does help. And like we are part of Guaranteed Irish, and actually only last month we got nominated as their brand activation champion.
I've seen on your Instagram, by the way, if anybody wanted to find you on Instagram, what's your Instagram?
It's just Hemp Heros, all one word, so it's HEMP HEROS.
Well done. Because I've seen on your Instagram you've been followed by the young entrepreneurs, blah blah blah. What's they called?
So I actually got nominated. It's kind of been a bit of a whirlwind since I left PwC. So I left in September, and then obviously now I've given my full focus to the business. We've kind of grown, I suppose, a lot quicker and exponentially. So I got nominated as one of Ireland's top 30 under 30 entrepreneurs, and then we also won the National Startup Awards for product and manufacturing. So we've won kind of a couple of different awards, and then I did get nominated for Ireland's top young entrepreneur. I think that might be what you're talking about.
That's the one, yeah. Because last week we had a Piers Morgan here, and he was very proudly speaking of that
okay.
organization, you know.
Yeah.
So I wanted to hear your couple of words about it, you know.
Yeah. So I got nominated, and funny enough, there was actually 2 or 3 other people who I knew got nominated who got 30 under 30. So yeah, they must have been obviously looking at the kind of who got picked.
Yeah, well done. Was there any reward for the winner?
The winner, I think, just got a trophy, and I think that was it, really. So unfortunately, obviously, wasn't the winner.
And did you ever go to your local enterprise office to seek any help?
Yeah, so unfortunately, it's nothing for us because of hemp. So like, we can't get anything. I can't even get as much as the trading online voucher, which is bizarre.
No way.
Yeah, and like I always say to people, if I was selling jam, they'd be all over me. They'd be throwing money at me, throwing resources at me, and we get literally no support whatsoever. So everything that we do, we're completely self-funded. I haven't took any external funding so far, because I suppose the goal was to grow the company where it is now, and now we're at a point where we have our own manufacturing. We have a large product range, so we're looking to kind of scale both in Ireland and internationally through distribution. So like, we're looking for large scale distributors like the likes of your Tesco's, Holland & Barrett's, to stock our products and really get out into kind of as much people as possible.
That's your next step, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the next step, because Ireland's such a small market. Like, we're already in a lot of places.
And this is probably the hardest step. You know, people think that once you have a great product, that's it, your life is made. But if nobody knows about your product and they can't access it pretty easily, it's no good.
Well, that's the thing. And like, even in the CBD space as well. So apart from getting no government assistance or funding, getting paid advertising is next to impossible as well, because anything with Meta, so Facebook, Instagram, even Google, they don't allow a lot of paid advertising on CBD because...
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. How did you get it to this point without it?
Well, you see, our products sell themselves in that, like, the quality is so good. Once people try them, they'll rave about them to their friends. So like, the amount of word of mouth referrals we get is phenomenal, where like people try the product and they're like, oh my God, you got to try this.
Jesus, that's almost impossible in my head. I couldn't imagine trying to run my business without Google ads or Facebook ads. Or
so
TikTok
like, our
ads.
Google ad and Facebook ad spend is pretty much zero.
No way.
Yeah.
That's impressive. You shocked me here, basically, you know?
Even our Instagram, like, that's all completely organic. So we've 8,500 followers. They're all completely organic. The only way we kind of reach, I suppose, new people would be kind of working with certain influencers. We've done a little bit on kind of podcasts and a little bit of kind of podcast advertising. And that's kind of the extent of it. A lot of it's down to word of mouth and just having a good product that people will try it and they'll recommend it to friends and they'll recommend it to friends, and it kind of continues to grow. And I suppose over the last 5 years we've kind of solidified ourselves in the space of that we're known for good quality products, and like, we always do try to go above and beyond for people, where like, for example, like, we've had customers email us and go, oh, I only bought a new bottle and half it was left and I'm after dropping it, or the dog's knocked it over. In general, we'll usually send them another one. Like, we are quite decent like that. I know what it's like on the other end if you buy a product and there's something wrong with it, or you drop it or whatever. So
next thing, you have a Google review.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, we've 270 in 5-star reviews.
Well done.
So, and they're all completely organic as well, where usually it'd be a customer has bought 2 or 3 times. We'll message them then and say, hey, look, how have you found the product? And then they'll go, oh, brilliant, my dog uses it for their joints, or I find it great for my sleep. And then we'll say, hey, look, would you mind doing us a quick review? As a small business, it's always great when we get reviews, and usually they're more than happy to. So,
coming back to the fact that government doesn't support this type of activity, you know, call me conspiracy theorist. Do it. Fair enough. Well done, you know. I think it's all due to the fact that the big pharma industry, you know, they want to be selling sleeping tablets. They want to be selling Xanax. That's how the world operates. They have to be producing the plastic. They have to. That's the way the world works. Isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose. And like, what we do is very much like, we're not pharmaceutical products, we're all food supplements, but I can see how it might compete with other kind of pharmaceutical products.
Of course.
And especially on the pet side, because for dogs who have joint issues and arthritis, there's very little you can give them. Like, usually it's heavy anti-inflammatories, heavy painkillers, or it's the likes of there's a new injection called Librela, so that's a pain blocker. It works similar to another drug called gabapentin. So essentially, the dog doesn't know he's in pain, but his joints are still fucked. So it just means he has better mobility just because he feels less pain, and it makes them more comfortable.
But it's a temporary
solution. Yeah, it's like slapping a band-aid on a big leak.
That's what a lot of the medicine does. The medicine that you get in the chemist, you know, a lot of it. Where like, what we're hoping with this clinical study is that we'll be able to show clinically that
CBD is definitely not going to cure arthritis in the slightest, but it will do is it'll help with the inflammation and make them more comfortable. Plus, it doesn't have the negative side effects on dogs, because the heavy anti-inflammatories, painkillers long term just wreck their liver and kidney function because it's so hard to process, where CBD doesn't have that effect. So for dogs in particular who have liver and kidney issues and they can't take them heavy anti-inflammatories, hopefully our products can be a solution, because if we can do that, well then we're obviously going to make pets a lot more comfortable and will have a positive impact as well. So it's a win-win all around.
Let's talk about the business side of this for a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Because you have a master's in business, right?
Yeah.
So you couldn't be in any better place to do this, you know. But do you think that would be possible for someone like somebody who's watching, let's say, they don't know much about the business, they want to start and they have an idea like this. Do you think it's possible for someone to start something similar or like this, or do you have to go to that school?
Yeah.
Okay, the proper question is, do you regret going to school, or are you happy you did it? Because there's a lot of people who'd say it out there that you know, school this, school that. But in your help, and the previous guy who was here last week, you know,
Yeah.
it was a, you know, bullseye shot, you know. Basically.
Yeah. What I'd say in terms of like actual school when I was a kid, it probably gives me no benefit to where I am now, other than I can read and write and speak English.
I'm talking about the masters.
But in terms of the masters, it did help in some aspects. So I think like going to college and doing an undergrad or doing a master's, it'll give you certain soft skills which you can use, and it depends if you can pick them up. Some people will go and do an undergrad and a master's, not speak to anyone, not do any work in groups, not do any presentations, and they'll just come out with a piece of paper and a load of knowledge which probably won't be applicable to even the area that they're working in. Like I've some friends who done English degrees and they're working in banks. So for me personally, I'd say some things have definitely helped in terms of probably just how to deal with people, how to work in group environments, maybe set deadlines, certain things. But I don't think by any means it's a prerequisite to being successful or even starting your own business. Like if you can go and do an undergrad or a master's, that's great. I think it does stand to you to an extent, but by no means is the be end and end all. Like what I do in a day to day now, it's nothing compared to what I've done in a master's. Like what I'm doing now is like doing an MBA on a day-to-day basis. Like I think,
that's the answer I was looking for, because there's a lot of people out there who are watching, they're afraid. You know, the way I was when I was back in my 20s, I was afraid that I'm going to be a loser for the rest of my life because I didn't have masters, let's say, you know. But stuff out there is also possible to people like that, you know.
No, definitely.
That's what I wanted to show people, you know.
And I think as well, like times have changed where before, if you want to get in certain jobs, you needed to have certain degrees. Now I think if you have enough ambition and enough kind of go-get kind of in you to do things, and like don't be afraid to take risks. Like the only reason I'm here today is because I dropped you a message. It was like, hey, look, what you think about having me on? And like I very much live by the motto, you don't ask, you don't get. So like you do have to ask them questions, and 9 times out of 10 they might be a no, but it might be that one time that you got that yes that'll make the difference. And it could be the difference between meeting the person who's going to be your business partner, or like meeting a person who gives you the idea to start that business or get you kind of started. So I think you have to put yourself out there, and by no means you need a college degree to start. Like do your research, don't jump into things fucking wholeheartedly and have no clue what you're doing. Like if I'd have tried to start this and done no research and went, oh, CBD looks good, I'm just going to fuck 10 grand at the wall and hope it sticks. Like I would have lost my 10 grand and I'd be still working in PwC. So I think you need to be careful. It needs to be calculated, and like take calculated risks. Don't kind of just
calculated risks is a good term. I like that. Calculated risks, because everybody needs to be taken, and the fear of rejection, obviously, overcoming it's another factor. You know, I think we've been conditioned that school teaches us that and everything else. You know, the fear of rejection is something that we really have to overcome ourselves, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think fear of rejection, like if you can get past that, and like if there's a particular person you want to speak to, like just ask them. It could be for 5 minutes at a time. If you know someone in business who you think you could learn something from, in general, most people are quite decent with their time. And like if you say, hey, look, I'm thinking about this idea, would you 5 minutes for a coffee? They probably will say yes. But I think you're always going to fail if you never ask that question. Like that's the guaranteed way to fail, is never try in the first place. And I think as well, apart from the fear of rejection, you need to get over the fear of failure. Like not everything you're going to do is going to work out perfectly. And like we've had plenty of bumps in the road with like deer eating our hemp, all sorts. And you just need to be able to take it on the chin and keep moving forward. It's the only way to do it, because you're never going to get everything right 100% of the time.
Yeah. All I do be saying to people, learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
Who said it? Einstein, I think, said it, that insanity is making the same mistake
over and over again
and not learning from it. You know?
Yeah, expecting the same.
It's brilliant. Isn't
Yeah.
it? A lot of people do that stuff and they don't realize. I used to be like that as well. Do you have any tips for people who want to educate themselves on their own term? Let's say somebody is at home. Do you have any tips like that? Would you be reading any business books or anything like that?
I would read a good couple of business books. Funny enough, I'm reading a lot on around functional mushrooms. So, like, usually when I'm looking at a different space or even possibly a business idea, I'll try read something around there, or somebody who's done it in the first place. Because, like, 9 times out of 10, if you're going to do a business, someone's already done it before you. Unless you're doing something so wild that it's never been done before, chances are someone has done it. But if you can build a better product on it, you're going to succeed.
But yeah, this is brilliant. Yeah, because every problem that somebody you have or might have, somebody already had it and wrote about it.
Exactly.
But tell me more about these mushrooms. Are you focusing on psychedelic or the fungi side of it?
More on the kind of non-psychedelic. Eventually I would like to get into the kind of medical THC side and probably psychedelic, because through the research we're doing with UCD, I actually met with another lecturer, and they're doing some studies at the moment on psilocybin for depression and schizophrenia. And some of the stuff he was telling me in terms of they're giving people high doses of psilocybin and they're seeing long-term positive impacts on depression, schizophrenia. So I think the way that we deal with mental health and certain disorders will completely change in the next 10 years, where the likes of psychedelics you're going to see a massive increase in people using them.
Me telling you to put your phone on mute, and here's my phone ringing. How the hell did that happen? Oh, it's connected to the computer, that's why.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry for this. Airplane mode. Okay, so we that's where we are with the psychedelics. Have you ever heard of dimethyltryptamine, DMT?
DMT, I have, yeah. I've never done it yet. Now, it is quite interesting.
I've done it, yeah.
Okay.
I got it in Dublin, yeah, €250 per gram.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, because I was that's the only reason why I did it, was because I learned about it so much, and I was reading about the shamans in Peru, about the ayahuasca. Yeah. I haven't got the money to go to Peru and try this bloody thing, but the synthetic stuff blows your head off, I tell you. And it, I think they've used it as well for heroin addicts. And there's some great percentages of people who go out of the heroin thanks to that. So I tell you, if I was a president today and they helped me to I would
make it mandatory.
I would legalize that, and I would legalize dimethyltryptamine, the DMT. There's absolutely no side effects from it, and everybody who takes it changes their life. I started recycling, and I started looking what I put in the bin. I did, after smoking it. And changed me.
Funny you say that. I do know of some people who've done it, and they have said it's nearly like an ego death. So
exactly that. It changes you. Yeah.
So it nearly takes away that fear or your ego, and it does change you for the positive. Yeah. And I know Mike Tyson talked about it. I can't think of the name of the toad. He uses some sort of toad. It's something similar to DMT, and he essentially had the same thing of an ego death, and he completely changed how he lived his life after that for the better. So I think the likes of psychedelics is a really interesting space. I think the next 10 to 20 years, it's going to completely explode. It's going to be brought in as well into the healthcare setting.
If there are people like you marketing this stuff, because if you went on a corner street right now and screamed psychedelics, you'd get a lot of hippies who want to get tripping. But there's just a lot of education missing in this area, because that stuff can be used to heal a lot of diseases. But nobody talks about it, because why? The big pharma.
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on as well, in particular in the US with the military. So they're actually trialing the likes of psychedelics, so like psilocybin, MDMA.
Oh, they have been
everything,
doing that
for
since
PTSD.
The 80s. Yeah.
So I think Australia only recently approved MDMA and psilocybin for medical use. So like countries
We're going to the army.
Yeah. Countries are, I think, starting to get switched on to the stuff that, like, okay, look, this is how much we're spending on healthcare, and this is a possibly new tool which has never been explored, which could give us really good benefits. So I think it's really interesting. And even on the functional mushroom side, the non-psychedelic, like some of the research I'm looking at the moment, like the likes of like lion's mane, kind of stuff you can buy in stores, like they're all completely non-intoxicating. But some of the research I've seen around like even cancers, sleep, recovery, like there's huge research going into that space, which I think is quite cool, and it complements the CBD space quite well. So that's kind of something I'm reading into at the moment. And then kind of other books, I suppose. I I do like some of the older books like Think and Grow Rich, just more kind of mindset around money and kind of...
That book should be reread every year. I read that book a few times, and every time I listen... Well, I'm listening to it, I don't read it. But every time I listen to it, I get some more value
something
from
new,
it. So maybe a couple of more questions about the marketing, because you were able to, your product sells as hell.
Yeah.
How did you get it onto the market without Facebook ads, without Google ads? And, you mentioned that it was a word of mouth, but I mean, there had to be something else as well. I mean, you had to call on people, could you tell us a short story about how did you get this onto the market without the advertising?
Yeah, so I suppose when we originally started, we kind of reached out to as much kind of connections as I could. So I got a good couple of like professional athletes, fighters using the product. And then one of our actually biggest ambassadors who we still work today would be Brian Keane. So he'd be quite well respected in the kind of fitness space. And it's funny, what we found is that there's certain people who would say necessarily have a large following. Like, we actually gave products to 2 people who were previously on Love Island, and you would think from the outside, someone who has 500,000 followers, you're going to get a massive boost in sales. It's going to fucking put you on the moon. And the funny thing is, people are very clued into, you may be an influencer and have a lot of followers, but they don't give a fuck at what you say, because they just know you're selling dishwashing tablets this week, flip-flops the next, t-shirts. You'll essentially push whatever you're getting told to get pushed and getting paid for. So getting someone who actually has, I suppose, true values and will only use products which they find themselves good is quite difficult. But we really kind of hit the nail on the head with Brian, in that he was very much like, look, I'm going to be honest with you, if I don't like the product, I'm just not going to talk about it. And like, you can offer me £1 million, I'm still not going to talk about it. Like, it either...
Well done.
Yeah. It either is going to work and I like it, or I don't like it and that's it. Like, so like, no matter what you tell me, like, it's just not going to fly. And I think getting people like that is so important. So like, we try work with only people who actually believe in our product, believe in what we're doing, and see the benefits. So like, we kind of started to work with influencers like that who had very good trust with people, because they knew if they're talking about a product, they really believe in it. I think that's what's really made a difference for us, in terms of, although we can't do paid advertising, the only people we work with are people who are like, no, I 100% believe in this brand, I believe in the product, I use the product on a daily basis. Because the last thing we want is someone using our product and they're just getting paid and it's thrown in a drawer and they never use it, because like, that's no good to us. We only want legitimate people to work with.
Yeah, people will see through the bullshit.
Yeah, and it's like your man Blind Boy, the podcaster. He done, I think, a BBC documentary, and they got a load of influencers into the room. They tried selling them on this product called Cyanide or whatever, and it had cyanide, which is a neurotoxin that'll kill you. So they basically pitched it to these influencers, like, oh yeah, has all these ingredients, helps you lose weight, has cyanide in it, how do you feel about that? And all of them were like, oh, this is wonderful. Didn't do any research on it, essentially giving them like poison. Something that would kill them, poison. And like, more than happy to promote it, didn't care what the product was. One of them actually even openly said, I don't try any of the products I promote. And like, they're the exact people we want to completely avoid, because like, they're going to give you no value. Any of their followers are just interested in what they're doing and won't buy a product at all from them. Like,
that's why, do you remember before the cameras were on, I said to you that we might not have a lot of followers on this Irish Success podcast, but whoever does follow us is a clever cat.
Yeah.
I said that multiple times. There's no idiots in our audience. I guarantee you, nobody who's on TikTok in those comments, none of the haters would stand an hour straight listening to a conversation like this. So thank you, guys. Subscribe and send it to your friends.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to wrap up in a few seconds. So basically, if anybody want to find you, buy your product, it's Hemp Heroes. Yeah. You have your website. You can order it online. Stuff is produced in Ireland. Local. Thank you very much for coming on, David. Do you want to add something to the end at the end, or
no? Just if anyone has any questions, like, feel free to reach out to us. Like, we've our WhatsApp on there. You'll get us by email. So if you're interested in trying CBD products and don't know where to start, just ping us a message. Usually one of the members of the team are on. We've a little chat bot there as well. They'll get back to you. So yeah, just thanks so much for having me on, and hopefully people enjoyed it and learned a little bit.
Well done. I hope you learned something. I definitely learned a lot from this podcast. Thank you very much for watching. And thank you for coming.
Thanks, man. Cheers.
Well done.